Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. This past weekend wrapped up the 16th annual Snake Grabbing Rodeo and Benefit. Joining us today is Jimmie Nichols to tell us what they wrapped up. So, hey, Jimmie.
Hey, Rebecca, how you doing?
I have been stalking your social media because I did not come to grab any steaks, but it did look like you guys had one heck of a turnout for this year's Snake Grabbing Rodeo. What was it like?
Oh, it was unbelievable. I don't even know how to describe it. I know I left my voice up there, so I'm sorry for the way I sound. But we had probably the best turnout that we've ever had, and I'll say this, probably the most boats I've ever seen on that lake at one time was Saturday.
And that's Lake Washington, right, Jimmie? Remind people,
what's that?
And that's Lake Washington. Remind us where the rodeo takes place.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We were at Lake Washington, up about 19 miles south of Greenville off of Highway 1 at Roy's store. And we did our 16th annual Snake Grabbing Rodeo benefit for Piper Moon and Manny Smith.
Is this the first year, Jimmie, you guys had two beneficiaries, or have y'all done this in the past?
Yes, ma'am. It was our first year to do two children. We've always kind of done one because this is a hobby for us. It's not a full-time job, which it turns into a full-time job. But we picked two this year because we couldn't decide between the two which one we wanted to help. So we went with both.
And boy, did it turn out. So how do you guys raise the funds? I know the actual event was this past weekend, which will remind folks what craziness you guys get into because it's actually in the name, Snake Grabbing Rodeo. But y'all also spend, it feels like, the year leading up to it, I'm sure you'll take a little bit of a break, raising funds for the people that you to choose on. How do y'all raise that money? Is it just selling tickets to this? Do people just make donations? How did you get to your big lump sum this year?
Well, no, ma'am. The event itself is free to the public, and we do things starting off usually around March. We start raising money, actually a little bit before in some areas, but we rely on a lot of great sponsors we've had with us for years, and this year we actually were able to secure a couple more sponsors, and I'll talk about them in just a second if you don't mind.
I'd
one
love
in particular, but we have, like I said, we got sponsors who've been with us since we started this, and that's grown because those other sponsors have seen that these people have done it for this many years, and we've kind of, I guess you could say, we've been vetted, and people know that the money, every bit of the money that they donate to this goes to the children, and so it's turned into a great event. We were blessed this year to be able to help two children. Last year, just to give you an idea, we raised $105,000 for one kid last year, Mr. Hunter Burkhalter, who was a St. Jude cancer patient, right here in the area around Brandon. And this year, like I said, when we got down to the vote between the four of us as who we're going to help, we narrowed it down from about 6 kids to 2, and then we got to 2, and we couldn't decide. So Joey Mays, Joey Rigby, Shane Gibson, and I decided to, what the heck, let's just try to do the same thing for 2 kids this year. I was a little skeptical, I think everybody was, as whether or not we could raise enough money to, be a real impact on each child. But I kind of look at it like, anything's better than nothing, but we always want to do something that, like I said, really impacts them as far as, maybe putting the money up for, if nothing else, a college fund for them for later on if they're making it okay right now. And then again, there's all these unexpected expenses that pop up, with these type things that, you really can't plan for. And so we decided to go with these two. And this year, we were able to raise about I won't know this for sure until like next Monday when everything clears the bank, but we should be able to give both children a check for the same amount that we gave the child last year.
That's amazing.
So we believe that we're going to be able to give both children somewhere around $105,000 apiece, maybe a few dollars more, I'm not sure. But we raised a little over $200,000 that we know of right now.
What does that feel like, Jimmie? I know you're a small team that puts this on. A lot of people come together for the actual snake grabbing rodeo and the benefit. Lots of big names come out for this to show support. They keep coming back, which shows me that they're bought into what you guys are trying to do, and they recognize, as you say, that where the money goes. But when you did take that leap, pick 2 kids, and then to see you be able to bless them the way you have been in the past, what's that feel like to you and your crew today?
Well, I'll tell you, we're humbled. We're all proud, but we're humbled more than anything because of the outpouring of support we get from our community and from people around us. But I do want to mention this. When we took this on, like I said, I was nervous. And just by chance, was talking with a business owner out of Hattiesburg, Mr. Keith Soche and his wife, Melissa, one day. And I don't even know how we got to talking about this benefit. I really don't. I mean, it wasn't intended. I wasn't necessarily wanting to ask them for a sponsorship, but I mentioned this benefit. And Keith's wife, Melissa, said, I got an idea. Can we talk later about your benefit? I said, yes, ma'am, that'll be fine. So we spoke a few weeks later, maybe a week later or so, and Keith and Melissa devised a plan to run a promotion through their business, which is Keith Superstores. And he's got a network of superstores or convenience stores all throughout the South and Southeast Mississippi. And so, we thought we may raise, $10, $15, maybe $20,000 through that, which was great, and would have been just as happy getting $5,000. I mean, it was something to help get us, moving. And it turns out that Keith and his stores was able to raise over $77,000. Wow. And so I cannot tell you how thankful we are for them, all of his employees, and for people like him, the people who walked in the store and gave the $2 or the $3 or the 50 cents, whatever it was. We're thankful for everybody. And I don't want to just target one sponsor, but, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that sponsorship or that help put this over the top to where we could, help both children in a what I believe is, a donation that would impact them. And on top of that, another local business here, Cypress Point, allowed us to use their facility to put on a auction where we had a band, we had an auction, a silent auction, live auction, and some other things. And we sold tickets to that event, a door fee, I guess you would say. And, we raised upwards of $60,000 at that event. So if you take 2 events together, that cleared the first one from last year and gave, then put it back in our hands as far as, hustling for those other sponsors that we use every year. And I hate to use the word use, but the other sponsors who support us every year or support the children. They're not supporting us, they're supporting children. And so, there's just a network of people around here who are very willing to give and to help. And, again, I'd just like to say a big thank you to places like Keith Superstores, Cypress Point, and all these other sponsors around here who have worked with us to help raise this money for these children.
And there's also folks, Jimmie, that like to come out and do not normal things.
Well,
once a year.
You can imagine. I'm sure you've read some of the comments. We've been we've been accused of being crazy, stupid, dumb, whatever.
I'm not going to use the word stupid. My 5-year-old will tell you that's a bad word. Crazy. I will bold it, highlight it, italics it, put it in yellow, and label you with it, Jimmie.
Well, we've been called everything. Let me just say that. People think we're nuts. And, the cool thing is we can take the criticism on that end. And, we got attacked by PETA one time saying that we were out here harassing snakes and killing snakes. We don't kill any snakes. And do they maybe get agitated for a few minutes? Probably. But the reality is, most people kill snakes when they see them. And what we've done, in a sense, we've educated a lot of people that a lot of these snakes are harmless and there's no need to kill them.
Jimmie, can you hang with us? We're up against the break. Can you hang with us?
Yes, ma'am.
We got Jimmie Nichols with the GrabUOne Snake Grabbing Rodeo coming up station. You can watch us too. We're on your computer, your mobile device. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. We're continuing our conversation with Jimmie Nichols. He's with the GrabUOne Snake Grabbing Rodeo. They just had their 16th annual rodeo and raised over $200,000 to benefit for Piper Moon and Manny Smith, children in the Mississippi area who have been, I guess, dealt a hard blow when it comes to health or other things that needed. But they have a good time, too. You have the free event, Jimmie, which is actually the Snake Grabbing Rodeo. I have to say, I got tickled. Dan in Hattiesburg on our text line reminded me that I should have forced Will East to give this interview because surely we all know he loves snakes. And I want to say, Jimmie, this is the first time you've been on Good Things, maybe for the past 2 or 3 annual rodeos. And Will wasn't filling in for Rhino today because it feels like every time you join us here on Good Things, Jimmie, somehow Will ends up in the producer seat, and that's the last place he wants to be, is talking to you. But we got Rhino today, so I thought it was funny that other folks recognize that Will needs to be in this conversation. But you guys have a good time. You've been labeled all the things, and I say it tongue-in-cheek. I love what you guys do. I love that people have the excitement, and clearly it's safe, and you've got it down pat. But what happens there on Lake Washington once a year when you all gather for the Snake Grabbing Rodeo?
Well, a couple of us roll in on Wednesday to start setting up. There's a lot that goes into it. It started off as a little event where, we may have a band, we may not type deal. If we did it, you could put them on on a flatbed trailer, and that's all we needed. And it's grown from a 150 or 200 person event now to upwards, close to 1,000 people on site. And so we roll in on Wednesday, start setting up, which means hanging all the sponsor banners, getting a stage set. We got the sound guys in, setting up for 4 bands. We do 2 bands on Friday night. It's kind of the kickoff for the event. Of course, Thursday and Friday, we spend a lot of time on the water, just enjoying the lake and doing, what people like to do, sitting around fishing, whatever. And then Friday night, we go into the 2-band setting, which this year we had the Slow Hand Band, which is a Conway Twitty tribute band, and then it rolled over from it at 9:30. Hurricane kicked off, which is a 80s, 90s rock band. And then Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, we have a safety briefing and a kickoff for the actual rodeo. And we split the guys into their teams, respective teams, give them their team shirts. And then at 10 o'clock, we have a sound off, which is usually some type of, percussion going off, either some tannerite or a muzzleloader or something, like a shotgun start, basically. And they take off like a bass tournament. They go out, and the teams scatter all over the lake. They catch as many snakes as they can between that time and 2 o'clock. Excuse me. They have to be back at 2, and at 2:30 we do the weigh-in or the count. And, of course, we give trophies that are provided by Mississippi Trophies here in Brandon. They are given a first, second, third place trophies, and then we give a trophy for the largest snake. Then right after that, we do the drawings on the raffle items, which may be anything from, from a firearm to whatever, So it's just all type of raffle items we do. We do the drawing for it. And then right after that, we do the check presentation where we present the checks to the families or, the big poster checks. And then that night, we roll right back into 2 bands closing out. This year we had Smoke played first, and then Shake the Bucket closed it out, which is what Shake the Bucket's done now for about the last 14 years. They're a closing act.
Oh, that's
and
really cool.
I was going to tell you something else. Oh, yes. Last year we brought on Mac Ginn. I don't know if you know Mac, but Mac is a professional rodeo announcer. He does rodeos he's done them all over the United States. He does a lot of work with Deep South Rodeo Productions, but he's a true professional rodeo announcer, so he's put a spin on kind of the atmosphere, I guess you'd say, or he runs all the announcing and keeps things moving, constantly talking about sponsors, constantly talking to the crowd, whatever, and he kind of helps organize, as you can imagine now, when you got that many people in one little small place, it gets a little confusing if you're trying to do things that I need to do and trying to talk to. It's just impossible. So our 4 guys are kind of freed up from that side of it and are able to help keep things flowing. such as getting the people first team on stage to get the trophies, getting the second team, first team off, second team off, how that is. But so Matt Ginn's been a great addition and has helped us tremendously with all the announcing and introducing people or whatever it may be. We just kind of tell him what we're doing. We don't say nothing else. Mac runs it, and he's kind of like a manager and a speaker at the same time.
Sometimes it's good to have that voice that runs it all. I think that's a great addition. So what was your youngest? Do you call it athlete? Do you call it competitor? Do you call it what's the term for your grabbing people? But what would be your youngest that y'all had out there this year?
Well, we had a lot of kids there. A lot of people bring their kids, of course, and I saw several small children. Being able to actually handle certain snakes and look at them, and people tell them what they were, what kind they were, and that type of stuff. But actually competing, I would say, there was probably some 14, 15-year-old kids there with their fathers or their team, and of course they're supervised. They're not just turned loose with us crazy snake grabbers.
Yeah.
We got to be careful, mindful that it is an event which could lead to some liability if somebody gets hurt. So we have to, we keep a pretty good check on it. The two things we stress is in Mississippi, to fool with any wildlife, period, you must have a valid Mississippi hunting license or fishing license. And if you're underage, of course, you have to be accompanied by somebody who does. So we play by the rules, and there are limits on snakes, just like any other animal. You only possess X number of certain species at one given time. And so the teams are pretty good size, so that's always hadn't been a problem yet. And we do generally inform the Mississippi Department of Wildlife. They're familiar with what we do, as well as the U.S. Fisheries that runs the Delta National Forest around there, familiar with what we do. Matter of fact, one of their federal guys was there with us for the whole event. So it sounds crazy. A lot of people get to have a good time, but it's a little more organized than you might think. We're mindful of the possibility of injuries, and unfortunately, we've had 2 people bitten by a cottonmouth, but both just made a mistake that they knew better than to make, and they did, and so they paid the consequences and had to go visit the hospital for a little while. But you're not going to die from a snake bite. We hadn't had a snake bite death in years here, and the snakes in that lake are not considered deadly anyway. There's a couple of venomous snakes there, but not deadly snakes.
Jimmy, you need that on a T-shirt for next year. You're not going to. You're going to need a T-shirt that says you're not going to die from a snake bite. That just needs to be your sort of tagline.
I'm not ever going to say you're not. You're likely not.
Likely not.
People die from bee stings, so anything could happen. But a snake bite is a real souped up sting, basically. It's a little more serious than a sting, but generally speaking, you're going to be fine if you go get the treatment you need. And, there's always a chance you could get an infection, or maybe you could possibly lose a finger or something if you don't take care of the bite. But for the most part, our doctors here and our people familiar with all our snakes and everybody we've had that's been harmed went home just fine. Well, and they still compete, by the way. One of them is one of the hardest chargers we got. He's back every year.
Well, that's because y'all are doing good work. Again, if you're just tuning in, that's $200,000 more or so raised for 2 wonderful kids here in Mississippi that need it. And y'all are already looking to 2026, Jimmie. So what's on the horizon for the 17th annual coming up next year? I know we'll talk more about it the closer it gets, but do y'all have dates or anything to put on people's calendars already?
Yes, ma'am. The rodeo is always the first full weekend of June. And so whatever that first one falls on, it was the 5th, 6th, and 7th this time. Last year, I think it was the 5th and 6th maybe. So it's always in that area. But, yes, I don't really know, Rebecca, what else we could do, to be honest with you. And when I say we, everybody as a whole, the only thing I would ask is that we do run this through a 501c3, and any donation that a business or a company or somebody might want to do for children other than giving their money to the IRS, you can run it through the 501 and you can write it off of your taxes. And I don't know that it's dollar for dollar, but it's a lot of people use it and utilize it. That's another thing that's made us grow is the ability to work with this 501.
Well, where can people go to learn more information, Jimmie?
Well, I mean, most people, they're needing information about which way they want to donate or whatever. Most of them contact one of us, me, Joey, or Shane. Of course, my Facebook page is probably the most active as far as GrabUOne because I post pretty much all of our stuff, and then so really either just contacting me direct, and I don't mind giving you my phone number.
Well, we'll make sure we get it in the Good Things Facebook group, Jimmie. We're running out of time, but always a pleasure talking to you. Congratulations again, 200,000+. Congratulations, man, and thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling.
All right, you guys stick with us. We got more.